Imagine a quiet town, a loving yet complicated family, and a community left in shock. On a cold January evening in Bridgewater, Canada, the unthinkable happened. A young girl's disappearance would unravel a chilling story of betrayal, desperation, and a dark secret. Dive into the tragic tale of Karissa Boudreau, a vibrant 12-year-old whose life was cut short in the most heartbreaking way. Join me as we uncover the twists and turns of this harrowing case, from the frantic search to the shocking confession. This is a story that will stay with you long after the video ends. Welcome back to Chilling Fireside Stories. Thank you for joining me today. Your support through likes, comments, and subscriptions helps me continue to share important stories. Today we're discussing a tragic case from Canada, the heartbreaking story of Karissa Boudreau. Before we begin, please note that today's story includes sensitive topics. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. Now settle in and let's begin. On the evening of January 27, 2008, in the quiet town of Bridgewater, Canada, the local police department received a distressing report. A 12-year-old girl named Karissa Boudreau had gone missing. Her mother, Penny Boudreau, reported that she had left Karissa in the car while she went into a supermarket to shop for groceries. When Penny returned, Karissa was nowhere to be found. As the search for Karissa began, Penny made a tearful plea to the media, asking for her daughter's safe return and seeking the community's help in finding her.
Just come home or call or something, please.
The town rallied together, hoping to bring Karissa home safely. Tragically, nearly 2 weeks later, on February 9, 2008, Karissa's body was discovered buried in the snow. The police worked tirelessly to find Karissa's murderer, but after hitting multiple dead ends, they launched an undercover operation to trick their prime suspect into confessing. The suspect eventually revealed the grim details of what had happened to Karissa and the motive behind the crime. Karissa Paige Boudreau was born on October 4, 1995, to her parents Penny and Paul Boudreau. She was a happy child who loved to laugh, sing, and play. Karissa enjoyed her Nintendo DS, swimming, stuffed animals, and listening to music by the Spice Girls, Miley Cyrus and Hilary Duff. Her father, Paul, described her as a daddy's little girl and said they were very close. Karissa had a dog named Lady and dreamed of becoming a veterinarian one day. Despite her close relationship with her father, Karissa had a strained relationship with her mother, Penny. The two often bickered. Paul and Penny had split during Penny's pregnancy, and Penny later married Paul's brother, Shane. When Karissa was 10, Penny and Shane also separated. Karissa primarily lived with her mother but occasionally stayed with her father. After living with Paul for 5 months, Karissa missed her mother and moved back in with Penny, who was living with her boyfriend Vernon in a 2-bedroom flat in Bridgewater. Everything seemed to be going well until January 27, 2008, when Karissa suddenly went missing. That evening, Penny called the Bridgewater Police Department to report her daughter's disappearance. She explained that they had gone to the Bridgewater Sobeys store but had argued in the car. Penny went into the store alone to get groceries, leaving Karissa in the car. When she returned, Karissa was gone. The community immediately sprang into action, launching an intensive search of the town and surrounding areas, including the partially frozen La Have River. Time was of the essence as Karissa was not dressed appropriately for the harsh winter weather. Despite the snow slowing their efforts, locals braved the storm to hand out missing person flyers and search for Karissa. As the search for Karissa continued, divers were sent into the icy waters to search for her, but their efforts yielded no results. The community rallied together, putting up posters, creating social media pages, and donating money to support the search campaign. Penny Boudreau made multiple appeals to the public, tearfully asking for help in finding her daughter. "I just want to tell you that you have lots of people who love you and want you home," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. Then nearly 2 weeks later, on February 9, 2008, a breakthrough came. A woman reported that her 9-year-old son had seen something unusual in the snow along a riverbank. Police quickly arrived at the scene and confirmed that the remains were those of Karissa Boudreau. Karissa had been found partially buried in the snow. Karissa's funeral was held shortly after, with so many people attending that they spilled out into the parking lot of the funeral home. Reverend Perry Ingersoll led the service, which included a slideshow of moments from Karissa's short life, accompanied by her favorite songs. No human reason or sense can be found in the fact that such a young, beautiful, and energetic life would be taken away so quickly before its hopes and plans had even begun to be realized, Reverend Ingersoll said. Among the grieving congregation, one person remained stone-faced throughout the emotional service, Penny Boudreau. Shortly after her daughter's funeral, Penny moved to Halifax, about 90 kilometers away. The police were determined to solve Karissa's case, interviewing hundreds of people, but no strong suspects emerged. Penny's unusual behavior following her daughter's death raised suspicions, leading the police to consider her and her partner Vernon as potential suspects. During a search of Penny and Vernon's apartment, police found a series of notes written by Karissa from December 2007, expressing her feelings of sadness and frustration with her life at home. In one note, Karissa wrote about missing Shane and Tracy, feeling crowded in the apartment and disliking Vernon's presence. The notes suggested a troubled home life. On February 11th, neighbors reported hearing a disturbance coming from Penny and Vernon's apartment. They heard water running in what sounded like an argument between Penny and Vernon. Neighbors overheard Vernon repeatedly asking, "How could you do this?" and expressing disbelief and frustration. Despite the lack of concrete evidence, the police arrested both Vernon and Penny on February 14th. However, without enough evidence to lay charges, they were released the following day. Feeling they had exhausted all options, investigators launched an elaborate undercover operation known as Mr. Big to uncover the truth. Undercover agents posed as members of a crime syndicate and befriended Penny and Vernon. Vernon denied any involvement in the case but expressed suspicions about Penny's role, claiming he stayed close to her to avoid being implicated. The agents then focused on Penny, and after 4 months, they convinced her that they could help her if she confessed. In June of that year, Penny Boudreau confessed to the undercover officer that she had harmed Karissa after Vernon gave her an ultimatum for their relationship. According to Penny, Vernon told her she had to choose between him and her daughter. Penny admitted that she would do anything for Vernon, and the thought of losing him was harder than the thought of losing her daughter. She even reenacted the actions for the undercover agents and took them to the scene, providing a detailed account of what happened that night. Penny explained that on January 27th she went for a drive with Karissa around 3 to 4 p.m. They drove for a couple of hours talking, but things got out of hand and both of them became angry. Penny said she did what she felt she had to do. They drove to Sobeys and Penny went inside the store, leaving Karissa in the car. She purchased some juice and bacon, and before returning to the car she called Vernon and lied, saying that Karissa was missing. She then returned to the car, put the groceries in the trunk and grabbed a piece of twine, putting it in her pocket while Karissa was still inside the car. Karissa kept asking to get out of the car, so Penny drove to a remote spot on William Hebb Road and told Karissa that if she wanted to get out she could. They both got out of the car and argued. Penny tackled Karissa, who fell on her back. Penny used her knee to pin Karissa down while Karissa said her last words, "Mummy, don't." Penny then wrapped the twine around Karissa's neck and strangled her. She described feeling Karissa trying to move her hands and digging at the ground before she stopped fighting and was gone. After Karissa had stopped breathing, Penny dragged her body and put her in the passenger side of the vehicle. She placed the twine in an empty Tim Hortons cup, which she later threw into a bin. Penny then drove to a secluded spot along the La Have River and parked the car. She dragged Karissa's body out of the car, using her jeans as leverage. Karissa's jeans, underwear and socks came off as Penny dragged her to the bank's edge. Penny decided to leave these items of clothing off Karissa to make it appear as though she had been assaulted. She then rolled Karissa over the edge of the bank, knowing that the weather was calling for lots of snow and that she wouldn't be found for a while. Penny then got back into her car and took Karissa's hoodie, vest and a single crock, disposing of them in a bin by the Bridgewater swimming pool. When Penny got home around 7 p.m., she told Vernon that Karissa had run away and called the police at around 8:30 p.m. She also contacted friends and teachers to spread her story. On June 13, 34-year-old Penny Patricia Boudreau was arrested in Halifax. She was charged with a serious crime but pleaded guilty to a lesser charge to avoid a trial. During her court appearance, Penny clutched a tissue and sobbed but said nothing as the charges were read to her. Outside the courthouse, people gathered and expressed their disapproval. Penny Boudreau received a life sentence, with the possibility of applying for parole after 15 years under the so-called faint hope clause. Justice Margaret Stewart, who handed down the sentence, said the crime merited a harsh sentence, stating, "You can never call yourself mother in conjunction with Carissa's name again. The words "Mummy, don't" from a trusting and loving Karissa are there to haunt you for the rest of your life." The courts ruled that Vernon was not involved. Vernon denied giving Penny an ultimatum, claiming he only suggested that something needed to be done about the constant arguing between Penny and Karissa. He said he was frustrated with the fighting and told Penny to either let Karissa live with her father again or he would leave. "I said you have to do something about this. It's not a productive family when they're arguing and fighting." Vernon explained that he was emphasizing his desire for counseling and a more peaceful home environment. Despite his efforts to distance himself from the case, Vernon expressed immense guilt about what had happened to Karissa. After Penny began serving her sentence at the Nova Institution for Women in Truro, she was diagnosed with depression, anxiety, and borderline personality traits. She completed several offender programs and was never classified as a security risk. Psychological assessments indicated she was at a very low risk of reoffending, leading to increased freedom over time. Penny was moved to a minimum security sector of the prison and, as of 2019, had been granted 6 escorted temporary absences to attend church. The parole board's decision included a description of Penny's early life, revealing that she was deeply affected by the death of her mother. Penny had never spoken about it until she came to prison. Regarding her current offense, Penny expressed that she was desperate at the time, desperate to be the perfect mother, desperate not to be alone and unable to ask for help. The motive behind Carissa's tragic loss appeared to be twofold. First, Penny felt that Carissa's presence threatened her relationship with Vernon, leading her to believe she needed to address that concern. Second, Penny was worried about Karissa speaking negatively about her to friends and the community, which she wanted to avoid. Penny told the parole board that she didn't plan to tell others about the incident because she didn't intend to live much longer. Since being in prison, Penny has realized she can reach out for help and has restored her relationship with her father. She has also found solace in the church. Paul Boudreau, Carissa's father, still struggles to comprehend what happened, calling it a senseless act. "For a parent to make that decision, I still can't comprehend it," he said. "There were many options, and had I known, I would never have let her go back. The center of my happiness is shattered, and hopes and dreams wiped away in one selfish act." The feeling of relief in Bridgewater was tainted by new feelings of disbelief. Even experienced police officers were at a loss to understand how a mother could do this to her daughter. Years later, the trauma of Carissa's death still lingers in the community. People continue to leave flowers at the site where her body was found, a heartwarming reminder that Karissa is still remembered. Thank you for watching today's episode. As a mother myself, sharing this story has been incredibly challenging. Penny's actions are unfathomable and go against the very essence of what it means to be a mother. Karissa Boudreau's story is one of unimaginable betrayal and loss. Her bright spirit was taken far too soon, but her memory continues to inspire efforts to protect vulnerable children. Let her story be a call to action, to speak up, to care, and to never turn a blind eye. Please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing to Chilling Fireside Stories to help me share more stories that matter. Until my next video, stay informed, stay safe, and look after your loved ones.